All right, guys. So I do got an update on the Ashlee Buzzard preliminary hearing. Here she is at the hearing. Got another picture, or maybe one more. Here you go. One more. And I just got the picture from Facebook of Tyler Brewer. I couldn't get a picture of him in the courts when I'm being told you couldn't video, but you could take still shots. So again, this is the preliminary hearing to see if there was enough evidence to go trial with the charge of false imprisonment that was filed by him. And there is an amazing turn of events. I will be honest with you, there's a lot more people coming on Ashlee's side right now, and mostly probably because they don't like him. So the enemy of the enemy, huh? A lot of people are happy that, I'll give you a little spoiler here before I read everything, that Ashlee won this case. Enemy of the enemy. I mean, Melodee is still the center of all this, don't get me wrong, but this case wasn't really about Melodee. It was about the charges that he put on false imprisonment. But a lot of us questioned this gentleman. As soon as he came into the scene, what was his motive? What was he trying to accomplish? And Melodee was able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that everything he said, that he was given to the media, everything was a lie. It's my opinion, and you could see my videos as I've matured in my perspective. Once I found out a little bit more about Ashlee's background, I think Melodee, I hope, is still alive. I think Ashlee just doesn't want to lose her daughter, because in 2021, when she went through the mental health breakdown, when she was locked up in the psychiatric ward, when she was most vulnerable, the people that were trusted to take care of Melodee, the paternal side, they try to take Melodee away. The system tried to take Melodee away, and maybe she knows she's going through something again, and if she seeks help, it can happen again, so she doesn't want to lose Melodee. I think everything she's doing here is so she doesn't lose Melodee. She doesn't want to give Melodee up to the other side. And I've seen grandma's interviews from the paternal side, and she's a bit aggressive. And after a lot of people saw that interview, they said, hey, something's going on here. You know, and Ashlee, she's mission driven, man. I did a video before where pressure is not going to make her fold, but pressure will make her snap. And you have to be careful of that. News reporters bragging that, yeah, I was able to ask Ashlee questions. And oh my God, and I did. Stop. Those are questions of judgment. She's not going to answer questions of judgment because she feels like she's being judged. I think she wants people to understand where she's coming from. I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to go with my narrative. I'm going to stay faithful in my narrative right now. I believe she did not hurt Melodee. I believe she just doesn't want Melodee to be taken away, because I have a feeling she may believe that if Melodee ever goes to the paternal side, she'll never see Melodee again. And I think this is actually done out of love. And I also think that she could be facing mental health concerns, and maybe she knows that. So she's getting ahead of it. But after today's hearing, oh, she's thinking, though. She's thinking. So a little background here. Ashlee Buzzard, age 35, is the mother of missing 9-year-old Melodee Buzzard. Melodee was last seen on October 9, 2025 during a road trip with Ashlee, and investigators have searched for the girl since the school report of her absence on October 14th. Buzzard has not been charged in her daughter's disappearance, and authorities have publicly emphasized that any related charges were not directly related to Melodee's case. That brings us to this. On November 7, 2025, Buzzard was arrested on a separate felony charge of false imprisonment stemming from an incident on November 6 at her Vandenberg Village home. The Santa Barbara District Attorney's Office filed a criminal complaint. I have case number 25CR09313, alleging that Buzzard had confined a man, Tyler S. Brewer, by violence, menace, fraud, and deceit. And that's on November 6th. The DA press release November 10th, 2025 noted Buzzard was held on $100,000 bail and was arraigned on November 12th. At arraignment, she pleaded not guilty. The complaint emphasized that the Melodee investigation remains ongoing and the false imprisonment case is separate. And again, this is her in court. Better view would be this one. And then this is Tyler Brewer. So on November 20th, 2025, Buzzard appeared for a preliminary hearing in Lompoc. Santa Barbara County Superior Court Judge Stephen Dunkel presiding on the felony false imprisonment charge. This was the third court appearance in 13 days after her November 7th arrest. So you had the brief arraignment on November 12th, short hearing on November 19th, and then today. Both sides had confirmed they were ready to proceed at the November 20th hearing. Media reports note that cameras and recordings were not allowed. Only still photos were permitted during the hearing. So incident, November 6, 2025. So according to police, remember, Buzzard and her daughter left California October 7th and returned October 10th with Ashlee Buzzard alone, no Melodee. On November 6th, a man identified as Tyler Brewer visited Buzzard's home. Prosecutors alleged Buzzard refused to let Brewer leave and armed herself with a box cutter, which a lot of people say she wasn't armed. Was in the vicinity, but wasn't armed. And we'll see. On November 7th, Buzzard was charged with 1 count of felony false imprisonment. She was booked and released on bail. An arraignment on November 12th in Santa Maria Court. Buzzard pleaded not guilty to the charge. She was ordered to wear a GPS monitor pending further proceedings. Preliminary hearing on November 20th. Both prosecution and defense presented their cases. The hearing in Lompoc lasted over 2 hours. In this hearing, the prosecution had to demonstrate probable cause to believe a felony was committed, while the defense argued the evidence was insufficient. At the close of testimony and evidence, Judge Dunkel ruled that the prosecution had not met the burden and dismissed the charge. The court also terminated Buzzard's pretrial supervision, lifting the GPS ankle monitor requirement. Now, guys, as I mentioned, there are a lot of people, because of their distaste for him, that they wanted her to win. And I'm going to agree. I'm going to stand by. We all have our opinion. It doesn't mean it's not about Melodee, because it is about Melodee. Because when this person came into this situation that we're dealing with just out of the blue, everyone in the community wanted to know who he was. And they wanted to know who he was because this involved Melodee. Who is this person trying to get involved in Melodee? God forbid he causes more harm. And we were questioning him right from the get-go. A guy that said he didn't want to be noticed. And soon after he does all this, right on his Facebook page, he popped all his contact information. He wanted to be the center, that person. And I'm tired of seeing those type of people when we have these cases, when it's about the victim and other people come into these active investigations, snooping around and causing doubt and confusion. You know, sometimes the case is simple. It's straightforward. But then people come in and they try to create all these different narratives so they could take control and onus. But it's not yours. The community. Everything we're doing is for the love of Melodee. And I think maybe it's about understanding Ashlee now a little bit. And that may be hard for us because we came in with a narrative that was introduced to us that most of us can't shake. And it's that initial narrative. The most powerful narrative is the initial narrative because it sets the foundation for where our mindset goes. But then there are certain people that the initial narrative starts to set in conflict. And then there's some level of cognitive dissonance, if you will, right? Where you believe something different, but you're feeling something different. Your feelings and your belief just don't coincide. And I'm good. As soon as I recognize that, I have to ask myself the questions to make sure that I'm in congruence with myself. And that's key. And in this case, what was a wake-up call for me was, as I mentioned earlier, that psychiatric commitment for the mental health concerns in 2021. I'm vulnerable. I need help. I mean, I'm completely vulnerable. And people are supposed to be here helping me. I trust you. Watch Melodee while I go through this, please. And then after you make it through, you find out they're doing what? They're trying to take Melodee away from me forever. And who's helping them? A social worker? Someone from the government? I'm going to lose her? I'm never going to allow that to happen. I am never going to allow anyone to take her away from me. And I see that. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I feel it too. I feel it too. I mean, right now she's being judged. But what about if we're wrong? What about if this is just a mother? Maybe she is going through a mental breakdown. I mean, people know her. I don't really know her outside of what's coming my way here. But what about it if she's going through something again? And she remembered what happened to her last time, and she just doesn't want to lose Melodee. And that all the things we feel that we think we're right because that initial narrative is wrong. This could be a mother making sure that she never loses her daughter again. So she has some level of control, because maybe she believes that if the daughter's taken away by the paternal side, she'll never see her again. And maybe I'm blinded by emotion, because maybe there's just some compassion there. But you see the news, they're attacking her, making fun of the makeup that she wears, the wigs. Really? I mean, imagine if they're wrong. They don't just got to apologize for the false narrative, but how they painted her to the world. That's a hard thing for them to admit. So they're going to hold on to that narrative. And at the end of the day, even if this is what she was doing, so she could hold on to her daughter, they'll come up with ways that she's still wrong. But this could be the ultimate test of a mother's love. And again, I could be wrong. I'm not perfect. I could be wrong. But it's how I see it. And I can't unsee it. I just can't unsee it. And I think if anybody's going to try to connect with her, you need to have genuine questions of curiosity without judgment. Maybe put yourself in her shoes. Build some trust. And don't do it because you want to be on the center of a TV screen being interviewed. Like here, this hero. You do it because it's about Melodee. You do it because it's about Melodee. Because in the end, if this is all it was, she's going through mental health concerns. And she's afraid she's going to lose her daughter permanently. What would you do if that was the scenario? Because that's how I see it. If you had mental health concerns that may have been out of your control, and the first time you went to get help, you found out that your whole world that you thought was close to you took your child away, what would happen if you needed help the next time? Would you trust the system? Would you trust the paternal side? No, you'll take measures into your own hands. But that doesn't mean she harmed the child. It could just mean that she hid the child. So maybe one day when this is all over, she can come back to her. Maybe. But this woman, I feel, is on a mission. I do. So the central testimony came from Tyler S. Brewer. He's the alleged victim. Brewer is a legal document assistant known to Buzzard. Testified that he had visited Buzzard's home several times between November 1st through the 6th, offering legal help. By the way, you really can't trust anything this guy says. He said on the evening of November 6th, he felt threatened, claimed Buzzard suddenly became agitated, brandished a box cutter, and blocked the door to prevent him from leaving after a conversation about the road trip. Brewer described Buzzard as paranoid and mentally deteriorating and said she was a totally different person than when he had first met her. He eventually said Buzzard let him go, after which he immediately contacted authorities. Brewer gave statements to investigators and the media, News Nation's big one on that one, ABC, indicating he believed Buzzard had regulated or hidden information about Melodee. In a published statement, he emphasized, "This has never been about me. The only priority that matters is Melodee." Yet he put all his information up on that Facebook page the moment he did this. The only priority that matters is Melodee. She deserves attention, urgency, and focus. Brewer also noted he has an anxiety disorder, which the defense later pointed out. Despite his claims, no other prosecution witness, so he had no deputies, neighbors, nothing. They were able to testify at the November 20th hearing, as the case focused entirely on Brewer's account and the audio recording evidence. The audio recording evidence. Because guess what? Ashlee may be having a mental breakdown, and she could be paranoid. And that heightens everything, including how she's responding right now if she feels her child's being taken away. But more importantly, how she's living her life. She feels she's being watched. I said that in an older episode. If you watch my videos, you'll see how I grew into this perspective. I document it. It's like my little journal too, because I'm learning. And I allow myself to be open to learn. And this whole interaction was on audio recording. The key piece of evidence in court was an audio recording of the November 6th interaction, which Buzzard had apparently made. Defense counsel introduced this recording to challenge Brewer's version. During the hearing, the recording was played for the judge. In court, it was noted that the audio did not corroborate Brewer's claim. It allegedly contained no mention of a drive or trip, no angry tone or threats, and indeed captured Buzzard opening the door to let Brewer leave. He knew that if he had the power of information by lying and saying that she said something, he would get the attention he needed. Or he wanted. Sorry, he wanted. I see that with other people that poke themselves in cases like the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. I'll get information and I'll be the center because I'm holding this. It's power. But this was debunked. The stuff he said never happened. In short, the recording showed a calm conversation with no violence, menace, or refusal to leave, contrary to this charge. He should be charged for a false report, obstruction of justice, whatever you want to toss his way. Aside from the audio, other evidence included the complaint documented itself, which is the charging language of violence, menace, fraud, and deceit, and any preliminary police report. However, the reporting emphasized that the audio recording was decisive. No physical exhibits, the box cutter, etc., are mentioned in press accounts. He did not know he was being recorded. So the legal arguments, prosecution attorney, senior deputy DA Jordan Lockey. So I'm wondering if the prosecution even knew that this audio existed. That's why she wanted to waive everything. Go ahead. Let's go to the preliminary. We'll go. You'll see my evidence there. And all of a sudden, I could just imagine the oh shit moment on this guy's face when that audio recording came out. And I'm thinking the prosecution would be like, oh, man. And everybody on that News Nation, all of them, man, this is the guy. He's a good witness. This is the stuff he said. And then she's mad and she's crazy. But she had an audio recording to prove that in that moment, she wasn't. She was deliberate. And from the get-go, people in this community that have been following this case that are connected passionately to Melodee, you're connected to all connections of Melodee's existence, which includes Ashlee. And when this guy came in, we all questioned him. And we knew something wasn't right. Something wasn't right. And I know some people may say, it wasn't that point. It was Melodee. Who was trying to come in to this scenario about Melodee's life? And I think it's because of him, because of how I felt about him initially. And then when I looked at the community, knowing I wasn't the only one, because sometimes I'm vulnerable too, and I look to see if my feelings make sense. So I look to see if anybody else partners with me. And sometimes I only need one, but there were many. And because of him, I'm thankful because that made me look at her a bit differently. That made me want to understand her background a bit more. And the last couple of videos I did, I discovered that background. I may not know perfectly well how she sees the world through her mental illness, but I don't think she'd hurt her daughter. I just feel it. And after covering all these cases that I've been covering lately, the Mimi Torres, the Jacqueline, Mimi Torres Garcia, the Celeste Rivas Hernandez, the Wisconsin House of Horrors, this may be a story of hope that I can hold on to. I think I need this story. We need this story. The community needs a victory, and that victory comes in the hands of Melodee being alive and well, and we need this victory amongst all the negative stories that we cover. This story could just be the center of a mother's love and what she's willing to do to not give it up. And the media and everybody could be having this all wrong. But the stuff that they did, you can't back down from. You won't be able to apologize for, because they'll shift with the next story. They'll forget about this one. But yet here we are in the community still wondering. Because once the narrative starts to shift, they'll move on. But we won't. So, I said relied on Brewer's testimony to prosecution attorney, senior deputy DA Jordan Lockey relied on Brewer's testimony to argue that Buzzard had acted with intent to confine him. The complaint asserted Buzzard's conduct was planned, sophisticated, and professional. The prosecution likely argued that if it's true, Brewer's fear and the alleged forced detention met the elements of felony false imprisonment. If it's true. They must have saw the audio. And then he probably said, without saying it's true, if it's true. The defense, led by public defender Adrian Galvin, countered that the only evidence of confinement was Brewer's uncorroborated claim and that Buzzard had no criminal record related to the incident. Galvin emphasized Buzzard's presumption of innocence and the need for fair process. He noted that Buzzard denied any wrongdoing and that the missing child's case was irrelevant to the November 6th incident. Critically, defense pointed to the audio recording. It directly contradicted Brewer's story. Buzzard had opened the door and never threatened him. Galvin argued this showed lack of probable cause. Ain't that powerful? Critically, the defense, that's our side, as I mentioned. It's just a gentleman here, Galvin. They were quick to point out that the audio recording directly contradicted Brewer's story. Buzzard had opened the door. She never threatened him. Galvin argued this showed lack of probable cause. So Judge Dunkel had to decide whether the evidence raised a fair inference a crime occurred. His remarks indicate he agreed with defense. The recording was exculpatory. In sentencing terms, he found the prosecution's case deficient as a matter of law because a reasonable listener would not have perceived Brewer to be in fear or physically detained. So the judge ruling and rationale. After reviewing the testimony and recording, Judge Dunkel granted the defense motion to dismiss. He explicitly stated that the audio recording showed no locations were mentioned. There was no change in demeanor. So she never changed her demeanor. She never mentioned where the baby was, where Melodee was. Sorry, the 9-year-old girl. She never mentioned where Melodee was. And indeed, it captured Buzzard opening the door for Brewer. In the judge's view, this flatly undercut the claim that Brewer was being held by force. He ruled there was not enough evidence for a reasonable person to find Brewer was in fear of imminent harm. The judge also commented on Brewer's state of mind. He acknowledged Brewer's anxiety disorder, but made clear that the court could not simply accept Brewer's subjective lived experience over the objective recording. I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's lived experience, he said, but the facts and the evidence had to control. In other words, even if Brewer truly felt frightened, the judge found the objective evidence, the audio, did not show the criminal act as alleged. As a result, the judge concluded there was no probable cause to proceed to trial on false imprisonment. So what's the outcome? Next steps? Judge Dunkel dismissal of the criminal complaint meant Buzzard was cleared of false imprisonment charge on the spot. Her ankle monitor GPS condition was terminated, and she is no longer under pretrial supervision. No trial will be held on this charge, and the case is closed unless the prosecution somehow refiles, which is highly unlikely given the ruling. Separately, the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office continues to treat Melodee's disappearance as an open missing persons investigation. Authorities have publicly stated Buzzard has not cooperated in that search, and some critics have expressed frustration at the lack of progress. However, Buzzard's dismissal on November 20th means there are currently no criminal charges pending against her. The community and media remain focused on finding Melodee, but legally, Buzzard's next step is simply that she is free of this charge and expected to comply with any law enforcement requests in the missing child case while retaining her constitutional rights. I got some notable quotes here from this case that I was able to pull. So there's a part where Judge Stephen Dunkel said, a recording presented in court today proves, this is Brewer's side, of the story was not true, and that the audio showed no evidence of menace or threat. He added he did not want to make light of Brewer's anxiety disorder, but found that the recording contradicted Brewer's testimony. He also noted the recording did not show Brewer's in fear of harm. Tyler Brewer, the witness, he goes, I fully cooperate with law enforcement. My only hope is that the FBI and police are able to use it to help bring Melodee home. He said in a statement emphasizing that this has never been about me. The only priority that matters is Melodee. Defense attorney Adrian Galvin, before the hearing, he stated, we deny wholeheartedly any of the charges. We're eager to put the process into place. He also reminded reporters of Buzzard's presumption of innocence. The accused in a criminal case are afforded the presumption of innocence, and we want fair process. And stressed that the missing child investigation would not be relevant to the November 6th allegation. Neighbor, there was a media observation. After one court appearance, a local resident complained, Melodee is the only one that matters here, a 9-year-old girl that's been missing, and her mom's not speaking out. This quote reflects community frustration, but was unrelated to the legal proceeding. You know, in fairness, when it's about Melodee, for that moment, he wanted to make it about him. That's what's gotten us mad. That's the feeling. That's the feeling when he came in out of nowhere. The feeling was we knew it was about Melodee. Why all of a sudden are we shifting towards this guy? Because he wants to make it about him, and we got defensive. That's where that feeling comes from. Couldn't place it, but it makes sense to me, right? I think it does, right? It's about Melodee, and then he tries to come in and make it about him, and then he tries to say it's about Melodee. No, it was about you. Sorry, but it's true, man. You put the thing right on Facebook right after you did all this. Hey, I don't want to be seen, but then you put how you could be reached. One lady says, you want to do an interview on my podcast? He says, no. Daily Mail reached out. Yeah, let me give you my number. News outlet across Santa Barbara nationally covered the hearing's outcome. The local ABC affiliate, KEYT, headlined that Buzzard's false imprisonment charge was dropped, noting the judge findings that the recording disproved Brewer's claim. Scripps News, KSBY, ran detailed accounts of the hearing, including quotes from the judge and attorneys. The National Press, Fox News, Court TV, etc., emphasized that the case was unrelated to the child's disappearance and reported on the brief prior hearing and the upcoming preliminary hearing. Media commentary largely focused on the unusual turn of events, that new evidence, the audio, led to an immediate dismissal. Crime analysis noted this underscores the importance of corroborating testimony. As one Utah reporter summarized, Buzzard appeared in court Wednesday in an unrelated case. Attorneys confirmed a preliminary hearing. A judge will then decide if the felony case proceeds. After the dismissal, KSBY quoted the key rationale, no evidence of fear in the recording, and noted that Buzzard is no longer required to wear an ankle monitor. No evidence of fear in the recording. Overall coverage treated the hearing outcome as a major development in the Buzzard saga. Prosecution's case collapsed when the audio came to light. Legal observers pointed out that at a preliminary hearing, the standard is relatively low, probable cause, yet even that was not met. No legal analysts we could find explicitly commented in the press, but Sinclair Broadcast, KJTV, Salt Lake City, ran pieces highlighting Brewer's statement and the ongoing search for Melodee. They quoted Buzzard's attorney emphasizing due process and even a private investigator noting Buzzard may be a victim herself due to possible mental health issues. Narratives changing. In sum, the media reaction combined factual reporting of the dismissal with broader concerns for Melodee's case. There has been no major controversy in legal circles about the judge's decision, which was based on the recorded evidence. Are we willing to allow ourselves to see what we didn't originally see? I mean, how much are really the thoughts that we think we have, or how much are the thoughts that we think have been implanted in us? We have to always keep ourselves open. And I think, and I could be wrong, but I think we need to shift our perspective just a bit. Safely do it. We could safely do it. There could be a balanced approach to both things. But maybe at the end of the day, it's not about making this feel like it's a win-loss, that we're right and she's wrong, but rather we need a resolution. Sometimes a resolution leaves us more open to understanding and building a bridge that will lead to Melodee. Because if you have someone that's paranoid and truly has no reason to trust anyone, then you don't start by judgment. Start by building trust. And I have a feeling, and it's hope, but I have a feeling we're going to see Melodee. And this story is going to have a very, very different narrative. As always, guys, the show is Teardrop. If you like what I do, guys, please, I have a link to buy me a coffee in the description as well as on top of my YouTube channel. As always, guys, stay safe.